Jared Gerker. He's running for Assembly District 2, e-delivering food gas. Let's welcome Alexis Johnson. She is the Director of Strategy for Henning Inc. Let's welcome Keith McCormick. He is running for Assembly District 6, South Anchorage to Girdwood. And let's welcome Ms. Sherry Laurie, the Executive Director for Downtown Hope Center. And our moderator today is Dr. John Morris, he's the former homeless coordinator for the municipality of Anchorage. Let's welcome John Morris and our panelists. Each panelist will give a 1-minute introduction, and then we'll move on into the Q&A. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Could we start with Ms. Johnson, please?
Test.
Perfect. All right, everyone. My name is Alexis Johnson. My background in homelessness is that I served as the municipal homeless coordinator from 2022 to 2024 under Mayor Bronson. I left office when Mayor Bronson did in July of 2024, and I started working for Henning Incorporated, which is a homeless service provider. We currently operate the municipal-run shelters at the Alex Hotel, Merrillfield Inn, and the Henning House downtown. We also provide transitional housing and rapid rehousing at Henning House downtown. We do contracting for the Warming Center, and we also do low-income housing at the former Golden Lion Hotel. We have an arm of Henning Incorporated that does workforce development called Reverb, and it essentially creates workforce development for people who are looking to re-enter the workforce. So we don't do the strict 40 hours of work week. We, just dip their toe in the water until we can get them back into the workforce, and that program has been successful this far. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Please.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Keith McCormick. I'm running for the South Anchorage Assembly. A little bit of background about myself: lifelong South Anchorage resident. I served 5 years in the Marine Corps Infantry. Moved back home, worked a variety of jobs. I was an EMT out in Whittier. I started a software company. I was recognized as Alaska's Entrepreneur of the Year that year in 2018. Most recently now I have a doctorate in medical science, and I work as a PA, primarily in pediatric psychiatry, but after this weekend, I'm filling in on the weekend coverage for Arctic Recovery, which is a substance use rehabilitation program. Homelessness is close to my heart in this town. I've been volunteering at the Downtown Soup Kitchen since I was a young boy, now the Hope Center, and now as my career is budding and I work more often, my young boys are down there volunteering more than myself lately. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ward.
Thank you. I remember him volunteering when he was a little boy. And his sons are the best volunteers. And his mother has been on the board of directors from the very beginning, so there's a real tie there. I'm Sherry Laurie. I didn't do this by a career path. I was a pilot for FedEx for 20 years and just ended up stumbling into homelessness when I retired to conquer fears. And at one point, asked the Lord for compassion because I didn't think I had any compassion, and He gave it to me a bunch. And in 2010, got on the board of directors for Downtown Soup Kitchen. 2014, through a weird set of circumstances, became the executive director, which I had never intended doing. But it's been an amazing journey getting to know these people and realizing that every person out on the street is worthy of love, of kindness. They want family, they want friends. It's been a beautiful journey. We have full homeless services. We have a soup kitchen, obviously. We started out with about 400 people, 400 to 600 a day at the actual soup kitchen. We take a food truck over to Davis Park. There are 200 people there. And the graduates of our program actually take the food truck. It was their idea. So they're over there with people that they knew from when they were homeless, and so they're inviting them to our workforce development program. And it's a full 16-week program, life skills, job skill training, all the way down to to mock interviews where people come from businesses in town and interview them, and they don't know it, but a lot of them are there to interview them to hire them, and they do get hired. So it's been a very successful program. We're bursting out of our walls. So I'm excited about the future. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Jared Gerker. I'm running for the Assembly out in Shubiak, Eagle River. My background is a little bit varied. I've worked in residential property management, where I had an opportunity to take part in a program called Path to Independence, which was something they tried a number of years ago. And so I've got some thoughts on that as well. And then I also worked in the state. I worked for Governor Dunleavy for a number of years, negotiating labor contracts statewide, worth hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts, and negotiating, labor terms and terms of working conditions during some really trying times during COVID. And so that was a tremendous blessing and opportunity. And then I also worked here at the municipality. I worked under the Bronson administration. I was the deputy director of human resources. And I got to oversee recruitment and retention efforts at the city. And as a part of that, we also got to do some work where we hosted job fairs at some of the shelters. And that was an eye-opening experience for me, because I've never really been to a shelter before like that. This was back at the Sullivan, and it was a very eye-opening experience for me. And on the side, I've also volunteered for a number of years, also downtown at the Hope Soup Kitchen. I take my toddler down there with me as often as I can. And I'm excited. There's a lot of challenges we have right now in the city. There are a lot. But I think there's a lot of opportunity. We've got a good slate of candidates running for the Assembly this year. Keith is one of them. I see Yara Silver's in this audience as well. And she's laser focused on bringing more housing online. It's going to take an all of the above approach, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited to be a part of the discussion, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. And thank you all for coming. Just in brief, a little bit of introductory ground rules. We'd like to have a conversation, but since it's a panel and there's 4 of us, we have to have just a little bit of rules. And really the only rule is please try to keep comments under 3 minutes at a time. It's my job to point out that if somebody doesn't get the chance to talk, if I'm not doing a good job, feel free to throw a water ball at me. Other than that, thank you each of you panelists for coming today. It's really an honor to be up here with you. Each of you is someone that is committed to making Anchorage a better place. Each of you have chosen lives of service, and frankly, it's an honor to be on the stage with you. And so thank you for that. And it's also a privilege to be here with you all, because really there's believe it or not, there's not much I'd rather talk about with an interested bunch of people than homelessness in Anchorage. And seeing so many folks here who are interested in that topic makes me really glad. I appreciate you all taking time out of your day to do that. And I'm excited about homelessness because I have a hope that we can do better. I think that a fellow in the movie towards the end said it best. I wrote it down so I didn't do it right, didn't do it wrong, I mean. I don't want to listen to the old story no more. And I think that applies to homelessness here. We've had the same story for years, and maybe we can have a different story. And I think that with folks like you, they're taking time out of your Saturday afternoons to listen to a documentary on homelessness, that gives me some hope. Let's start our conversation off with you, Ms. Lori, if that's okay. You've got a lot of experience here, not to say anything about chronology, but you've got a lot of experience and you've been committed to this for a long time. What is your goal for homelessness in Anchorage? What's your goal for the city? What's your goal for people experiencing homelessness? And if you have one, what would be your plan to get to that goal?
That's a really good question. This documentary, we've showed it, I believe, 4 times at Hope Center and once over at Change Point with 200 people that attended. So a lot of people in this city are they want a solution, and we have watched it since, and you saw the date of there, 2013 was when Housing First was implemented. And it has done nothing but getting worse and worse and worse, while the drug problem's gone up and up and up, especially with fentanyl. I just returned from Washington, D.C., meeting with a lot of people involved with this, at HUD, and there's an organization called Citygate Network, and it's a network of all the different rescue missions around the country. So you saw a lot of them represented there. You actually saw the president of it. And, what my dream is for this city is that we would have one facility that people could come into. It didn't have to be large, but they could come into it, and you can navigate them from initial entry, what their needs are. You can get job training, you can get rehab, you can get, the different things, get their identifications. You heard all the problems they have, just even getting an identification. You can't have a P.O. box, they don't have an address. So to have a place where they know that's their home, and they're all over our country. You saw some of them there. They're all over our country. They're beautiful facilities. They're clean. You wouldn't know that the people are homeless. Most of them have even children running around. They have women's and children's facilities. They have men's facilities. They have the things that the people come into and become part of a family. And that's what at Hope Center we hear all the time. It feels like family here. And we have women that have gone into Housing First facilities and come back because of the things that happen to them when they go into a Housing First facility where there's no care, or there's no, it's not mandatory to have anything to help them along through the recovery and those things. So my vision is that as a community, including all the different organizations that work together in homelessness, that we could come together and envision a facility where people can be taken care of instead of 50 in a rec center here and this here, and then everybody go out for the summer. That is destroying the city. So I just see unity amongst all of us and faith-based, because that is the key. I know at Hope Center that's been the key, that we minister to the Spirit, we bring God to the people, and He loves them more than I could love them. So yeah, that's, in a nutshell, my vision. There's a lot more to it.
Mr. McCord, if you want to go next, feel free. And then Ms. Johnson, she's got a unique perspective on it, having worked both for the city and for service organizations.
So the question being what I would envision this looking like?
Well, the original question is, what's your goal for what would you like to see in Anchorage as a community? What would you like to see in Anchorage for people experiencing homelessness? And given that, what would be your plan to get us there? Or what do you think about what Ms. Lori said? Yeah. All of those are fine responses.
I agree
or
with what
pass it on to Ms. Johnson and let her go first.
Yeah. I love to talk, so definitely that makes sense. So what I would like to see for the city, and I have had an opportunity to work both on the public policy side as well as in direct service. I think first and foremost, we have to tell the truth on the data. I think there's a break right now with how the community is receiving data and then what they're seeing with their eyes. Because when you tell someone, hey, we're solving this problem, the money you're investing with your tax dollars is going to great use, and then you take half your day and you drive around this town, you recognize that what I'm being told is not what I'm perceiving. The trails are unsafe, we can't take our kids to public parks. So I think that's the first and foremost thing that we need to change, like culture shift in our town. Second thing is we need to create a system where there's accountability on both ends. We need to incentivize getting out of homelessness, but we also need to discipline people who do not want to actively engage in their own rescue. I think one of the things that you see right now is you have a system that's freely given. And when you have that system that is freely given, there's really no accountability for the client to change, because right now in the system that we have people who are coming to us saying, I'm ready to change my life. I do not want to go back out into that homeless camp this summer. How do I get out of this situation? We have programming, we have AA, we have NA, we have faith-based organizations that are doing worship on Thursday nights. People who are ready to make the change, to get sober, to get out of homelessness. And we have programs that subsidize their living situation moving forward. We put them back into the workforce. We get them on a path of sobriety and change. And by the time April comes, where half the people are going back out into the camps, these people have saved up enough money. They're getting subsidized housing for the next 6 months, and then they're back on the path of long-term recovery and back on the path of getting out of homelessness. But then you have a population of people who come in, they get their meals in the morning, you never see them again, and they stay all winter long. They go back to the camps, and then they come back to our shelters the next winter over. So there has to be a give and a take, in my opinion, on how we serve the population and really focus on the people who are actively ready to change their life.
Thank you.
I think when I first looked at this issue more recently as an adult, having the medical background, I had a question, so I dove into the medical journals, the peer-reviewed journals, and said, okay, Housing First, as Lori said, was started in 2013 as federal policy. What have we seen since? What are the journal articles talk about? And what we saw was in 2013 it was implemented federally, and then I went through studies, meta-analysis, was finding California had homelessness increase from 2015 to 2019, so pre-COVID, they had a 47% increase in homelessness. Whoa, you know, that doesn't show it works. All right, let's look at other communities around the US. I found a longitudinal study in Boston. I said, okay, the study brought together 800 participants. They said, what is the long-term outcome of Housing First? And they ended up terminating the study because over 40% of the participants passed away from substance use or mental health illnesses. So that didn't look too good. I said, okay, what about outside the US? There are other people practicing this. I found a study out of Canada that did the same similar type of longitudinal study of what happens 2 years into Housing First. And what they found was that after 24 months, people who received Housing First shelter with no accountability, no action on their part, no treatment, versus people who were left without any resources and just checked back in 2 years. There was no determinable difference, and actually there was some slight difference in that people that had Housing First had worse outcomes and loss of quality of life. So when I look over those types of results, I feel compelled that we need to make a change, that this policy hasn't worked well. Housing First is a great slogan for, hey, we have unhoused people, let's put them under a roof. They are now housed and we wash our hands of it. But that's just treating the symptoms of homelessness, and it's not treating the root causes. If we want to treat the root causes, we need to have something like a navigation center, something where we have a compassionate hand up there where they can come in. They get immediate housing. They come in, they get a warm bed, they get showered, but then there's ongoing wraparound services of transitioning them to higher and higher levels of care and get them back on their feet so they can be members, participate in our society again.
Saw you nod there.
Yeah, look, I mean, everything everybody said is good and it's correct. I would add a couple things. You know, when we're talking about Housing First, and you know, it's the hot topic right now on the Assembly, right here at the local government. It's been the topic for a while. I don't think it's the right approach. I don't think that it's working. I think we see that in the data, in the data that you can read about, and then the data you can just drive around and look at, you know, around town. We can clearly see that this isn't working. Part of the problem with government is government moves tortuously slow, right? And we've had how many work sessions, we've had how many committee hearings on this over and over and over. Every single summer, it seems like the Assembly at the end of the summer goes, well, we ran out of time to do anything meaningful this year. Everyone's gonna have to scramble together this winter, and we'll try again next year. And that's simply not good enough, because these are people's lives that are on the line, right? We're not. This isn't hypothetical. This isn't. This isn't like student government stuff. This is serious life and death situations, and we've got to do a better job. The Assembly simply has to be more responsive. I think that anybody that's working on a solution towards homelessness, be it that their approach is Housing First or their approach is kind of more, I think, what we're advocating for, which is, you know, there should be services with accountability. I think at the end of the day, everyone's goals are still the same. Everyone wants to help these people. We just have to determine, is putting them in a house with zero structure or incentive to change or get better actually helping them? And I think the answer is no. So I would like to see a lot of what we set up here as a centralized place where we can get everybody the resources that they need. The people that want to get the resources, we need to refocus our priorities, get the people with the best shot at reintegrating back into society and our community and be contributing members of the community. We need to prioritize our resources on them. And then the folks who don't want to get help, we have to have a conversation about making them get help at some point. There needs to be a conversation about, hey, you've been out on the streets, you're causing fires in the woods, you're vandalizing stuff, you're doing property crime. Ultimately, you're destroying yourself with your addiction to drugs or substances. There needs to be a conversation about where do we step in at some point and say, okay, enough is enough. We're going to require you to get help, and this is how it's going to happen.
I did in addressing the ones to require them to get help. Because of, that you heard about the IMD exclusion in there, that is why we can't require them to get help. There's nowhere for them to get help and have it paid for. So Alaska has a exemption that will give them there's 16 beds, they said 15, but it's actually 16. And they can get